I'm Jody O'Neill, and I'm from North Carolina. And it's almost been 10 years ago when I first called Dr. Fuhrman to help me. I had been suffering from a whole group of autoimmune conditions, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. The worst was psoriasis. I had a rash. If you know what psoriasis is, it's a bad rash that just doesn't go away. Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition of the thyroid, and Sjogren's, an autoimmune condition which attacks your saliva. And I used to wake up and feel like I had a mouthful of sand. And your tears, I couldn't wear contact lenses that I had worn before. And it started when I was a teenager in high school, and I got a skin rash and joint pain. And I was treated by a pediatrician and an allergist and a dermatologist, and they put me on drugs, steroids and antihistamines. And I was on those drugs for almost 20 years. In my 20s, I started when I was a teenager. In my 20s and 30s, I was on the drugs and suffering the side effects and gaining weight. The steroids put weight on you to the point where I weighed 32 pounds more than I weigh now. And then in my 40s, other things started to happen. My father died of cancer. My college roommate dropped dead of a heart attack at age 44. No prior heart disease that she knew about. Another a high school friend fell down and broke a hip at age 48. Another one of my high school friends had a stroke by the time he was 48. And I just kept seeing all these things, and I wanted to know how this could happen and how it could be prevented, and I started on a health journey where I wanted to learn how to prevent illness and what was the cause, because I had been to doctors through that whole time, and they now were recommending stronger drugs, methotrexate, and I think that's what it's called, and Plaquenil, and Enbrel, which is a very expensive drug that you have to inject in you, and I refused. When I started on this health journey, I weaned myself off the drugs I had been on, and there was no way I was going to go back to drugs. So I needed to find another way, and by the time I was 50, though, my symptoms had come back, and I was literally covered from head to toe with the psoriasis again. It was in my scalp, my eyelids, inside my ears, on the bottoms of my feet, all over my back. Those of you that maybe have seen on the Member Center, under Success Stories Autoimmune, there are pictures of what my rash looked like, but it was also on my front, but I didn't want to take a picture of that. My arms and legs. I couldn't wear clothes like this. I was too embarrassed. I live in North Carolina. The summers are sweltering, high humidity. I wore long sleeves, long pants. I wouldn't go to the beach or the pool. And as I said, the doctors were recommending drugs. And so I had the motivation. I wanted to get better, but I didn't know how to do it. And I read an article. So I was on this health journey, and I subscribed to Health Science magazine, which is produced by the National Health Association. And there was an article in it by a Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and he mentioned autoimmune conditions and nutritional healing. And that was how it started. This was before there was a website, before there were newsletters, before Eat to Live was published. And so I went back to my old issues, and I read everything that he wrote. He had published a book called Fasting and Eating for Health, and I read that. And I knew he was an MD. That impressed me a lot. because he had been trained in drugs and surgeries, and yet he still had a message that your body can heal itself if it's given the proper nutrients and environment and lifestyle. So I knew he was the one to help me. And I had a phone number, but I couldn't call him. I procrastinated and I stalled because I had read enough of what he had written to know the drastic change I would have to make. And I wasn't ready to do it. I mean, I love to travel, socialize, go to restaurants. Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. I mean, the thought of giving up my cousin Liza's sweet potato casserole. And my sister Jamie knows that recipe with the candied yams and the brown sugar and the cream and the marshmallows. And I mean, it was just too much. So anyway, my gynecologist said I had 3 cysts on my ovaries and I needed surgery. I called Fuhrman the next day, and he told me, just like he said, this is what you eat for breakfast, this is what you eat. And I started January 1. I called him in December of 2000, so it's almost been 10 years. Called him in January. I flew up to, and I flew up to New Jersey in February. And in March, I wasn't itchy anymore. Because the rash was terribly itchy, and that was the first sign of healing. It took another 6 months, and the rash completely disappeared. So by September 11th of 2001, that affected all of us. For me, that was the day my skin was completely clear. And I'm now 61 years old, and I feel better than I did when I was 31. And this is my 4th getaway. This is the 4th time I've come up here to tell my story. And I remember the first one, I described this as a medical miracle. And Dr. Fuhrman even toyed with using that as the title of his new book, which he ended up calling Eat for Health. And I know why now. What happened to me was not a medical miracle. What happened to me was Eat for Health. And that's what it's all about.
Amen.